All right, welcome to the CWU Student Media Podcast. Today we are going to be discussing the recent announcement by Central Washington University that fall 2021 will come with a vaccination requirement. Mitchell Roland is here joining us again. Thanks for being here, Mitchell. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
So I understand you reported on this. I think we should just break it down for everybody and let everybody know what we know so far about what is being required for students who are coming back to school in the fall as far as vaccinations.
So every student's going to be required to prove they've been vaccinated in order to come on campus in the fall. Right now, it's a little bit unclear if there's going to be exemptions like other universities have had for religious reasons or personal reasons or just medical reasons. But for students who haven't been vaccinated, when they actually come to campus, vaccines will be provided for them. And one of the really interesting things in last week's announcement was that faculty and staff are also going to have to be vaccinated to be vaccinated when they come on campus in the fall. And so when CWU made the announcement, they said they didn't run it by the faculty or staff unions beforehand, but they said they know they're going to have to negotiate with them. They're going to start these negotiations now, but as of now, they plan for all faculty members are going to have to be vaccinated in order to come on campus in the fall. So that's kind of where things stand now. We kind of saw it coming a little bit when Governor Inslee visited campus a couple weeks ago. One of the things that people asked him was, hey, like other states are starting to require vaccines to be on college campuses. Is that something Washington State's considering? And what he said at that time was he was considering it. They were considering what legal ability they had to do it. But right now is under the state's jurisdiction or under the individual university's jurisdiction. So afterwards, I talked to President Gaudino, and he said it'd ultimately be up to the new incoming president since Gaudino leaves here in about a month. But Gaudino was preparing a plan at that time, which would require all students to get vaccinated. In the week in between that happening and the vaccine requirement being announced, WazU announced a vaccine requirement, UW announced a vaccine requirement the same day. Western Washington University announced a vaccine requirement. So pretty much all the major universities in the state have started requiring their students to be vaccinated in the fall. The one exception is Eastern Washington University over in Cheney, but other than that, all the they had talked behind the scenes, and they all kind of came to the agreement that they were going to require vaccines in the fall. So that's kind of where things stand right now.
So did I hear you mention that the university will provide vaccines for those who haven't been able to get vaccinated if it gets to that point?
Yeah, so there's currently a vaccine clinic on campus already, and any student able to go get that. It's just on the second floor of the STIRC. In the fall, that same clinic is going to be up and running, and there's going to be they're offering vaccines to anybody who can't get to a vaccine right now, students who kind of live in an area where vaccines kind of hard to get or don't have the ability to go travel to get one. So yeah, there's actually going to be vaccines available on campus in the fall.
Well, that's good. And do you think that all I've really seen about this were the social media posts that the university made, and in some of the comment sections, I think it's worth pointing out that people are probably more likely to comment if they're upset. But knowing that, I did see a little bit of pushback from people. I don't know. I don't think most of them were current students from what I saw. It seemed like a lot of them were either just people that just happened to like the page. Maybe they were alumni or maybe they were just locals. But have you seen any like arguments against this, or does it seem like this is pretty widely accepted, or do you think that they're going to face some pushback from this?
They're definitely going to receive some pushback. It seems like whatever side of the whatever opinion you have, whether you're for or against it, you have that strong opinion. You're going to make it vocal. Is kind of what it seems like right now. There's definitely some pushback on the CWU announcement, both on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. The article that we posted on the Observer got a lot of feedback just from locals as well. That received a lot of pushback, and then we have an article coming out in a couple of days here where we talked to some current students who are a little hesitant and unsure about this vaccine requirement. So there definitely is a section of students who are either worried or concerned or don't want to get vaccinated. But I think the vast majority of students are comfortable with the requirement, and at least just from the people I talked to seem willing to get the vaccine.
And so you might not know this, but does that mean that fall 2021 is going to look more like a normal quarter, or are there still going to be online options or hybrid options? Are masks going to be required? Do you know any of this information yet, or is this still being worked out?
Vaccines are likely to be required. Godino said a couple weeks ago that if the vaccination rate of students was around 80-85%, then masks probably wouldn't be required. Things would pretty much go back to pre-spring 2020 normalcy. Like everything would be back to relatively normal. Since we're not likely to hit that by the fall, there are going to be some restrictions. So some of the less on-campus activities, more distance in the classroom. There's probably more online classes than normal. You're still gonna have to wear a mask on campus most likely. So there are gonna be some restrictions. They probably won't be as stringent as they are right now, and there's probably gonna be more in-person actual learning, but there are gonna still be those requirements just until we get the vaccination rate up to around 85%.
Yeah, I mean, do you think that it will? Are they trying to reach that number before the quarter starts? Are they trying to say, okay, as we come in, we're going to start requiring everybody? Or is it like a hard deadline? You have to be vaccinated when you show up for fall 2021, or is it if you get here and you're not vaccinated, then we're going to make you an appointment, and at some point you're going to be vaccinated, et cetera?
I think since they're offering the vaccines on campus, it's not so much as a hard deadline, but they want to announce it a couple months in advance just because you have to get the first vaccine. There's a waiting period in between the first dose and the second dose. And then even after you get that second dose, there's still about a 2-week period until you become fully, or the immunity builds up. So it's a month and a half long process from first shot to actually having that immunity to COVID-19. So they just want to get it started as soon as possible, because if you come to campus on that first day of school, by the time you get that, even if you get your shot on the first day of school, by the time you're kind of immune, that's after midterms of fall quarter, which
Mhm.
so that's going to create some issues if there a bunch of people come to campus and they're not fully vaccinated. So I think part of the early announcement is they just want to get people started as soon as possible so they can start getting vaccinated now. So when they actually come to campus, they actually have that built-in immunity.
Absolutely. Um, One of the craziest things about this whole thing, I think, is that we just before everything went down in 2020, we announced that we will be changing presidents. And this new president that's been kind of shadowing Gaudino and working with him for the last year or so to try and usher along that new position, he kind of inherited this massive. Well, not that he isn't quite there in charge yet, but he's going to be starting his career at Central with this massive, unprecedented problem. And has there been any comments from him, or are we still just looking to Gaudino for answers? Does he have any statements out or anything regarding this kind of?
So we haven't heard from the new president. The new president actually takes over on June 7th of this year, so less than a month away. So we're getting down to it. But the plan, this vaccine plan, and then all future plans actually have to be approved by the future president, according to Gaudino. So although Gaudino is the one that developed this COVID vaccine plan, it still had to be approved by incoming President Wolpert. I know that Wolpert and Gaudino are in regular communication. Wolpert's about to finish up his academic year at Northern Iowa. So once that gets done, he's going to start taking more of a hands-on role at the university. So we haven't heard from him directly, but we know he's been involved with just this planning and process since he was announced back in January.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that they're communicating on it. I'm glad that that Gaudino has said that he wants the upcoming president to be okay with everything he's doing. Well, I think most people just want to know, when do I have to be vaccinated? And it sounds like those things are still being a little fleshed out. And it sounds like there's a lot of information. All they really announced is that they will require them. We don't have a lot of details yet. I'm getting that right?
Yeah, so the announcement still left a few things unclear. There are not a lot of details in it. I think the main point from the university is just get vaccinated as soon as possible. So there's open vaccine appointments on campus, throughout town, on the west side. So vaccine's pretty available at this point. It's the supply there. So they're just really trying to get as many people to get vaccinated as quickly as possible, or as soon as possible. Because when NZ was on campus, he made the point of there's about 10,000 CWU students. there's 20,000 total people in Ellensburg. So just CWU students make up about half the town. So you get all these students coming back to campus who aren't vaccinated. That's going to create an increase in cases. So it's really important that students, just when they're coming to campus, to kind of get vaccinated as soon as possible.
Absolutely, I agree. I mean, I hope that this plan is effective. I hope that everybody is clear, and I hope we can all reach the same conclusion, which is this is a good thing, and this is how it's going to make it possible for things to look normal again at Central's campus. Is there anything else you would like to leave us with, or is there anywhere that we can watch out for future information on this topic?
So the Observer is going to come out with an article here a couple of days. So issue 7 of the Observer is going to have more, actually issue 6 of the Observer, and then I guess future issues. That's going to have more information just because we get updates and can get more information on the plan. And then I would just keep checking CWU social media pages. That seems to be where they're announcing most of these and making most of these announcements.
Absolutely. So on top of following your student media, Observer, Newswatch, especially right now for this information, also follow the university's social media, because that's where they made the original announcement. That's where you can hopefully learn more when they figure out the details of how they're going to do this. Thank you, Mitchell, for coming on today and just kind of clearing things up for us. Yeah, this was kind of just a special edition. We were hoping to kind of figure out, how people are taking all of this. But I personally, and I think most of the people I've talked to, are pretty happy that it's almost like a light at the end of the tunnel. Things are going to start looking a little normal again at Central, and I think that's overall. I think most people are pretty happy about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, man. That's going to wrap up our episode for today. Thanks again for coming on, Mitchell, Roland, everybody. Tune in next week. Actually, we will be doing another episode this week with Pulse, so stay tuned. We'll see you.